Hey guys, welcome back to the Stuff of Legend. My name is D'Lo, and I am a little bit frustrated, and I'm going to tell you guys why. I was over on Instagram, and it's very funny. Started I started noticing that a lot of trolls are out online, and this is nothing new, right? So almost everybody is fully aware that you're going to always run into people who just can't be satisfied no matter what, right? And so you can try to explain to them, you can try to rationalize if they're maybe they're just like trolling you for being a Marvel fan or a DC or a Star Wars fan, or there might even be sub factions within these things. You guys have probably seen this maybe as much or maybe more than I have. But as far as like going to the lengths of I'll just give you a quick example. So I'm gonna read this right here. I had been on a Star Wars channel, a really fun channel on Instagram that does a lot of memes and posts about Star Wars, and somehow this came up. It was a guy. I won't say who it is because I'm not going to try to get specific with people. I'm not trying to like point hate out for this guy or anything, but it was just silly to me. It was frustrating, and he was saying what was it? You know what? Let me see. I'll pull this up for you guys. I really appreciate you guys when you come and you join me on these live streams. It's a lot of fun for me to get to connect with you, and I don't know. I really appreciate you guys, your support. Just the amount of likes and the amount of comments and views that you guys have given me is much more than I deserve, for sure. And you're the best. But I'm going to go ahead and read some of this, okay? So I'll probably end up changing a lot of this, okay? So somebody had said that they disagree about something. The prequels, while flawed in execution, had an excellent storyline and made sense. It also felt like a necessary storyline and expanded upon the Skywalker family tree. The sequels have been flawed in storyline thanks to lacking any risk in The Force Awakens and any cinematic sense in The Last Jedi, which had execution flaws unlike The Force Awakens. They are not necessarily. They're also not necessary. The only interesting part was the sequels. In the sequels was Kylo's story, but other than that, Rey is some nobody who's OP for no reason, which means overpowered. Overpowered for no reason, like not having really undergone much training or anything, just happens to be better than everybody at everything. And blah, blah, blah. So I had said, I respect The Force Awakens for what it tried to do. I love Rogue One and Solo. That's no secret. I've said that many times on my channel. It's The Last Jedi that I have problems with. And I think most people hate The Last Jedi and then cast their frustrations onto the other recent films. So like they blame Disney for quote unquote ruining Star Wars. And I think this is something that I just think flat out isn't true. I think that, Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson specifically are to blame for The Last Jedi and the turns that it took. I thought The Force Awakens, yeah, sure, it was quite the echo of A New Hope, but at the same time, it had a lot of promise. It had a lot of potential that it could have gone one way or another, and instead of doing that, it was contingent upon what's coming next, and what came next was Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy forcing their feminism and their it was man-hating feminism. I'm all about like equal rights and all the things that traditional feminists stood for, except that's not what we see today. A lot of feminism now is third wave feminism, and they preach stuff like toxic masculinity, but they're talking about things that aren't inherently masculine. A lot of the times they point to cases like rape, and they're talking about cases of molestation as if that is inherently masculine. And that's not the case. And they blame men for a lot of their problems. And I think it's pathetic. I'm not trying to get like super political or anything, but it's man-hating feminism that they injected into Star Wars and tried to use Star Wars as a political platform, which is stupid. And most people hated the movie because of that. They sacrificed story for their ideology, and they are pushing that ideology through the platform that is Star Wars, and it just doesn't fit, and it didn't work, and everyone hated it. Nevertheless, I will go on. So then, let me see, where is this? I had it here just a second ago, but then my screen closed, and it made me reload all this stuff, and now there's more comments. Let me see. Anyway, in the meantime, if you guys are checking this out, I said the prequels kept Star Wars alive, because someone was saying, they're like, dude, they're like, is it wrong that I love the prequels? And I said, no way, dude. The prequels kept Star Wars alive. I said, I love the prequels, and there is nothing wrong with the prequels that wasn't wrong with the original trilogy. Both are awesome, but the prequels made an already great story even greater. And I stand by that. But what ended up happening here was that a guy named Lewis, I won't go into his actual handle, he says, agreed, and the lightsaber fights in the prequels are way better. And I said, absolutely, it's not even close. I totally agree that the prequels' lightsaber fights are far superior to that of the original trilogy. Now, Return of the Jedi has some great lightsaber fights that are really awesome. The shots are great. Jabba's barge. There's a lot of really cool scenes that were awesome, and they stepped up as the films progressed. But in that same spirit, as the films progressed, the prequels then stepped it up and stepped it up and stepped it up, and now we have some pretty awesome lightsaber fights within the prequels. And they are better fight sequences than there were in the original Star Wars trilogy. I'm not saying the movies are necessarily better. I'm just saying that the fight scenes were. So as far as lightsaber fights, and I agreed, and I said that. Then somebody else, who is the reason I'm making this rant, is that he said to the other kid, Lewis, he's all, LOL, I bet you think Marvel movies are really good. To put him down for thinking that, the prequels had better lightsaber fights than the original trilogy. And he's kind of just like, he's kind of trolling, kind of being a little sassy here. And then Lewis said to the other guy, I actually do think that most Marvel movies are really good, which, by the way, the vast majority of the population do. Not that, that makes it automatically great, but it shows that most people appreciate those films. And because it's art, that's a pretty good way to gauge whether or not it's doing its job as a subjective, art form. If most people like it, it's probably good. So he's saying here, I actually do think most Marvel films are really good. Is there something wrong with me enjoying those movies? ? Like, he's being pretty civil here. He says, I don't see what that even has to do with me saying the lightsaber combat choreography in the more recent Star Wars movies are better than the original trilogy. And I said, I got kind of sassy because I saw this guy trolling this kid, right? And so I kind of came to his defense a little bit. I was like, I told the other guy, I bet you think disapproval makes you a critical thinker, because that's me being sarcastic, and or rather sardonic. Anyway, I then messaged Lewis in the same comment strand, and I said, there's nothing wrong with liking Marvel movies, DC, Star Wars movies, or really any movie. It's all art, and it's meant to be appreciated by the viewer. I think some people mistake negativity for critical thinking. Then Derek Henderson is he's the other guy, but nevertheless, he says prequels. He's messaging the other guy. He won't talk to me directly. He says prequel lightsaber fights are better because they have more jumping, spinning, flashing lights. It's so exciting, like my favorite series, in quotes, Marvel, where they all fight with big lasers and punches, but there's no danger since they're superheroes. And he's clearly referencing a lot of the nonsensical rumors that Marvel movies have no consequences and that nobody dies in Marvel and that there's no real danger, which is bull crap. That doesn't stack up whatsoever. And they're saying that because a number of hero characters have come back to life and a number of villain characters have survived their episodes or come back when we thought they were dead, namely Loki and Winter Soldier. But I said, to rebut this, I said there was still jumping, spinning, and flashing lights in Star Wars, the Dark Knight trilogy, any other category of films you can probably compare alongside Marvel. To say there's no danger is ignorant. And I think what you mean is there are no long-lasting consequences as far as death, which is also ignorant, speaking of Marvel. Since you are probably looking for deaths that stick, and assuming you have seen all the MCU films and aren't a garden variety troll, which he is, I said, let me refresh your memory. You probably don't remember Phil Coulson of the Avengers. Now, yes, he went on to get a TV show along with Peggy Carter, who also dies, but they got their shows. One of them was a prequel. The other one was brought on because the fans demanded it. They loved the character. The death of this character was so greatly impactful that they wrote in a loophole to allow him to be in because the fans demanded it. That wasn't something they had originally planned. It was brought about because the fans wanted more of Clark Gregg as Phil Coulson. And the death actually was real, by the way, if you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. The bringing back was an extra normal event. So they do a good job of explaining it. Anyway, Peggy Carter. Howard and Maria Stark, dead. Ho Yin Sin from Iron Man 1 in the cave, dead. Meredith Quill, Peter Quill's mom, Star-Lord's mom in Guardians of the Galaxy, dead. The original Groot is not the same as Baby Groot. Those are two different things. They're not even the same entity. The original Groot's death was valid and real. There's another creature that spawns. It's like a kid. It's like Groot had a kid. That's kind of what happens. It's not the original Groot. The first Groot is, in fact, dead. Groot died. Yondu died. Sorry to spoil that if you haven't seen that. Frigga and Odin, both of Thor's parents, dead. Scourge from Thor 3, dead. Quicksilver, Avengers 2, dead. Doctor Strange is the Ancient One, dead. King T'Chaka in Civil War, dead. That's Black Panther's dad. There's also Zuri in Black Panther, Prince Njobu, Eric Killmonger, dead. The entire Nova Corps and the entire planet of Xandar, dead. I'm not even mentioning people who died during Infinity War, other than the Nova Corps, other than Xandar, like the many deaths that happened inside of Infinity War, and then also the snap, right? So that I'm not counting the snap event, and I'm not counting the many deaths that are inside of Infinity War, other than the snap. Okay, so you want to talk about, like all these straw man arguments that there's no consequences, there's no death, there's no danger in Marvel films? Are you serious? Like you're gonna tell me that those things haven't happened, that there's no threat, that those characters aren't potentially in danger? I would beg to differ. I think that there's a lot of characters that have died, whether they be supporting characters or, potentially, like Quicksilver was kind of a supporting character, kind of main. I mean, he was integral to the storyline of Avengers 2. But like you can't tell me that there's no death. You can't tell me that it's all sunshine and rainbows. Like you obviously haven't seen The Winter Soldier. You obviously haven't seen Avengers Infinity War. That's not even including the Netflix series. Gosh, you want to talk about, dark or Marvel or whatever? Like, don't get me started. All right. Don't go that way. And it's just funny to me. Like I'm not trying to like limit people's ability to speak out about certain things, because obviously you can say whatever you want, but it does you no favors to say unintelligent things or to not think before you speak. Right. So it's just, I get a little bit irked. It's kind of, this is where the rant comes in, where I'm like, man, I just like, I want to like just get inside someone's head and just plug in information. Just be like, look, you don't have to agree with me that, like say where this all started, that the prequel trilogy's lightsaber fights are better than the original trilogy, or the original trilogy's lightsaber fights are better than the prequel trilogy. But I think it's probably fair to say that the choreography in the prequel trilogy as a whole is not only it's much greater as far as the amount that's given to us, the different kinds of lightsaber fights that happen, the quality of the fight scenes, the intensity of the fight scenes. I don't think it's that hard to recognize, but this guy is very likely just trolling. Like it's probably, I mean, you can have that opinion if you prefer them because you like the old style. That's totally valid as an opinion, but he's calling it out as fact, right? Now, I was giving my opinion. The other guy was giving his opinion, and then this guy comes in and just starts trolling, right? So that was the frustrating thing for me, is that you want to have a discussion, you want to have a debate. Let's talk, but let's recognize where there's opinion. Let's recognize where there's opinion. Let's recognize where there's speculation, and then let's determine what the facts are. All right. So we can get into the number of fight scenes that involve lightsabers in the original trilogy versus the number of fight scenes that happen with lightsabers in the prequel trilogy. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the time on screen that lightsabers were ignited in the original versus the prequel trilogy. Can we talk about how many swings there were, how many times the Force was used? Can we talk about that? Like how are we going to gauge what's better? But I think it's kind of ignorant if you want to make those arguments with no facts, and you want to invalidate someone else with insult, right? It's like, can't we just have a civil discussion? And so I kind of escalated it. I had fun, actually. I had fun escalating it a little bit, but he was being the troll. So I decided to go over and help this kid out who was just having fun on the internet, trying to enjoy his appreciation for Star Wars. And then, some people they want to act like their opinion is fact, right? And I'm sure that I could possibly be accused of that, but I try to be fair. I try to let people know what the facts are when I read movie news, what is fact, what is speculation, what's assumed, and then what are my theories? What do I think could happen? But what do we know is true, right? There is truth. There is absolute truth. There are facts. There is history, things that actually happened, and they happened in a certain way, in a certain order, in a certain time with certain people. And so you can start to grab these things and build genuine, real discussions, real arguments. But you can't do that if people are going to assume their opinion is automatically fact without stating any kind of case or basis for that premise. You see what I mean? So that's kind of the frustrating thing for me. I know there's a lot of great people that are part of the fan community, and I want to try to encourage that. I want to try to help people get on board with talking with one another. And like, I would love to hear this person's case for why the original trilogy's lightsaber fights are better than the prequel trilogy's lightsaber fights. Why does he think that? What makes it better for him? I'd love to hear that. I would love to, even if it was just because, hey man, I grew up on those, and that's kind of the way that me and my brother did it. I was Luke and he was Darth Vader, like whatever. Dude, that's awesome. That's so cool. Like I could get on board with that. I can appreciate your opinion. I might still defer at the end of the day, but at least I understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean? But this person doesn't take the time to do that. They just want to make fun of people for thinking a certain way or believing a certain thing, right? And I think people do that in politics way too much. Instead of having a discussion, they jump right into attacking your character and assuming that you're a bad person and assuming that you must not care about this or you must not care about those people or whatever it is. Can't we just talk about why? Can't you ask me why I think that the original trilogy might not have better lightsaber fights? Like why, like that's kind of the thing, is we're all out here on the internet trying to have a good time, trying to have fun, and even trying to connect with one another. People that I disagree with, I love hearing their sides. of their stories and their preferences. Ryan from Nerdy Blurb TV, great guy. I love that guy. We've gotten in contact so many times. We've done collaborations. I've been on his channel. We disagree on a lot, actually, but we actually have tons of common ground. We would not have known that if we didn't take the time to listen to one another and get to understand each other. And if he reached out to me first and he was like, hey man, I like what you said about this. I'd love to ask your opinion about this. And I think we might disagree on some of this, but I'd love to get your opinion. And that's how the fan community grows. That's how we go deep into getting to know one another, getting to understand each other's appreciation. You might come away liking a character that you never knew about because somebody else has an appreciation for that in the stories there that were told in those comics. And you might be like, dang, man, like that's so cool. I didn't know that. Or, hey, who's your favorite Jedi? My favorite is Luke Skywalker because I grew up on those films. And then someone else might be like, you know what? I really like Anakin Skywalker before Darth Vader. You might be thinking, dude, that's so stupid. Darth Vader's where it's at. But they might have a different appreciation. They might love the fact that just because you make a mistake or you make a series of very bad decisions, you can still be redeemed in the end. You can still turn from your wicked ways and come to the light side, bring balance to the Force, destroy the Sith. You walk away with, you still technically know all this power. You have all this knowledge of the Force on both sides, and then you end up serving the light and saving the day. And then, he's the chosen one, and then Luke comes and fulfills that, but then it's kind of full circle through Anakin. So it's cool. You can get to understand people in different ways. You might be able to expand your appreciation for your own fandom by talking to people you disagree with in a civil way. You don't have to call people names and mock their appreciations. So that's one thing. I think that's all I really wanted to say. I don't really have a lot more than that. Today's not a movie news thing. I just wanted to do a quick rant for you guys. But I appreciate, let me know down in the comments if you guys disagree with me, even on the premise that I was talking on Instagram with these guys. Sorry about the slow start, guys. I was just trying to find it, and it was buried in dozens and dozens of more comments that I had originally had it pulled up at. So I guess it just blew up. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Give me a like if you like this video. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. It does not matter. And then if you guys want, please share this with a friend. Share this with another nerd you think is going to enjoy this type of discussion, or maybe needs to hear this. Maybe that person's a troll, and maybe I can help talk to them. Or if you guys want to talk to me, I'm all ears. Like I said, I'm on Instagram a lot, so you guys can go ahead and message me there on the Stuff of Legend show. So that's my handle. You can find me there. I'm always on there. I'll probably be uploading some more live streams soon. Excuse me. And so, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys down in the comments. I'm looking forward to the discussion. Always, always, always discussion. I don't care if we disagree. I love it. So thank you guys. You rock. And you guys stay tuned for more right here on The Stuff of Legend. Where is the end stream?